Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor. It's Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169, and if you want to talk to Michael, press 1. That puts you in queue to speak to him. We already have 2 people holding with their hands up. We have several people on the phone already, a couple in the chat room. Dr. Tim and Dr. David are both with us. Before I turn it over to them, our Memorial Day celebration today is 172. Michael. We can't hear you, Michael.
I'm here.
There you are.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome, Dr. Tim. Welcome, David. We're delighted to have you gentlemen with us. Before we entertain callers, how do you gentlemen be today?
Doing beautifully, thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Yes, well, we are happy to be where we are. We're in I'm actually sitting on a balcony looking over the Gulf of Mexico in the sunshine. We had a great rainstorm this morning, and it's absolutely beautiful. David, how are you, and how's the weather in Theodosia? Hello, David. Are you on mute, David?
Well, I was on mute, and I had a call coming through, and so I wasn't able to take it off of mute. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good. Well, Chuck and I are on our way to Branson. I'm going to my appointment there, and so I may get lost here in the Ozarks, or the connection may get lost here in the Ozarks, so know that we're with you in spirit, whether we're connected electronically or not.
Okay, sounds good. I've actually found that that Verizon system works pretty well all the way that drive to Branson. I've actually done the show while making that drive, so
wow.
So you should be able to stay connected.
We'll be on. We've just left, and so we'll be on the road just about the whole time for the show.
Okay, well, we'll just hold the space that you are safe in your driving, and Jeanie had announced the Memorial Day Veterans Day honoring those who've been through the travesty and the insanity of war. And our request of you in terms of honoring Veterans Day, Memorial Day, is that you be willing to do your part in eradicating war from planet Earth. How do I do that? Well, if I have a capacity to produce any form of hostility or fear, I am a contributor to war because I hold the energy that causes war inside of me. That is just the simple capacity to experience any form of hostility or fear. Now, they say, well, the baby's born, there's fear there. Excuse me, just because it's there doesn't mean it's supposed to be there. If you have a hard drive that goes corrupt, the next hard drive is going to have corruption. It doesn't mean that that's natural in the hard drive. So I'd offer that what's natural for a human being is a human life. What is a human life? How are we going to define that? Hold a newborn child, you know what human life is. So our request is that you be willing to restore yourself to your human life. And that means if you have any form of hostility or fear that contributes to the energetic pattern of war on planet Earth, we invite you to forgive it. Now, forgiving it means that you apply a technology, a tool called forgiveness, to the part of your mind that holds the hostility and fear, and you remove that part of your mind. That's forgiveness work. Now, the culture, by and large, teaches pardoning work and calls it forgiveness. I love what Karl Marx said. If you change a person's or a culture's language, you can destroy the culture. The reason why we still have war on planet Earth, I offer, is because forgiveness was disappeared from the planet centuries ago, and it was replaced with pardoning. I let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me. It does nothing to change what's happening inside of me. I be responsible for and apply forgiveness to what's happening inside of me, and I get to get free of what's happening inside of me. That's forgiveness work. So we're going to invite you to go to the website, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, www.whyagain.com. Right-hand side, there's a link that says download worksheets. And under that link, the first 5 links will give you the whole story. It'll give you sample worksheets that are our radio shows where we walk people through the worksheet. It'll give you the worksheet itself and a written explanation of the process. So we are delighted to be here supporting you. And, Jeanie, you have a couple of callers. Let's listen to what our first caller has to say.
Okay. First caller is area code 541. I believe that's Oregon.
Hi there, Jeanie and Michael. This is Carolyn again.
Hi.
Well, hi, Carol. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I've been working on a worksheet for my relationship with my daughter, and
Right.
I'm finding that when I get to 5A, that I'm having trouble going further than that, because I feel angry myself at her, and I, of course, know that's inappropriate. She's going through her own hostility, fear, and anger, and what I'm also needing help on is the fact that I, myself, obsess too much about my relationship with both of my children, both of whom seem to have really serious anger issues. And some of it I know is directed towards their father, and as the mother, I've all these years taken the brunt of it.
Okay, so before we get too far away from the core issue, let's back up a little bit, and let's just take a look at the fact that let's step back one more step. You say the children have anger toward their father. Did
Yes.
their father, was he one who expressed anger in his relationship at home with you, with the children?
Well, he killed himself.
Pretty angry act.
Sorry?
I would say that's a pretty angry act.
Yes.
Okay, so then let's start from scratch. So your children received anger genetically from their father. We know that your children received anger genetically from their mother because their mother is angry ostensibly with them. I'm going to offer you a different thought than that, but ostensibly you're angry with your children. So now we know that your children have a foundation for anger. How well do you suppose, at the young age they are, how well do you suppose they're going to do at dumping and getting rid of their anger when their mother, decades later, is still angry? Do you think they're going to open the energy window for healing that if you don't?
Well, Michael, most of the time, until one of them, either one becomes vicious or angry, I'm doing okay.
Right, so you can keep your anger hidden until they go into theirs and resonate.
I guess they trigger it.
Yes. So because we're good at denial and dissociating from our anger doesn't mean our anger is there. And if we're really good at living with above the anger and denying it and keeping it hidden, the way you know that it's there, of course, is somebody can trigger it. So if we're good at keeping it hidden, here's what happens. It's like a spring. I push on the spring and I hold it down, and the spring collects what's called potential energy. Imagine I've got a 3-foot diameter spring that stands 3 feet high. And sitting there on the floor, that spring can't do anything. But when I push it down and lock it, it has in it a potential. But that potential can't express. I push on it and lock it again, and I push on it and lock it again, and I push on it and lock it. And finally I get a half a dozen really big, strong guys to come give me a hand, and we really crank this thing down. Now, there's a lot of potential energy there. If I let the lock off of that spring, it's going to go flying, right?
Right.
If I don't let the lock off of that spring, then that energy is going to express somewhere. You might remember in the ancient physics language, Aramaic, they said nothing will remain hidden. Everything will be made known in the light of day. So if Mom gets good at keeping her anger dissociated and hidden from herself, she sets up a field. I had the privilege about 30 years ago of getting to do some work with an awesome gentleman named Marcel Vogel, who was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. Marcel had the instrumentation in the laboratory with which to take a picture of the high-energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. So what that means is, if I'm in a dissociated state with my anger, I've cranked that spring down 100 times, and it's really tightly wound, I'm setting up a field. And it's just like a tuning fork. If I hit a middle C tuning fork on a desk, and a second middle C tuning fork is in the space, that second middle C tuning fork is going to start to vibrate. If I have my anger well suppressed and dissociated, then I'm setting up a field that's going to tend to trigger that same frequency, to draw people with that same quality of anger and to trigger that anger in them. And, of course, when it triggers it in them, all of a sudden I can't keep the spring locked down. It pops in me. Now, when I see that I've got it and it starts to pop, I have the option of either saying I'm angry because of what they did, i.e. my children got vicious, therefore I got angry, or I can tell myself the truth. And the truth is my children got vicious and it triggered my anger and viciousness. And so
I get
now
that.
Okay, so now my next option is I either keep in blame of them, or I say, I realize that I want to live my life without anger, so I think I will go to work. And, when they said to Yeshua, how many of these worksheets do we need to do? And in Aramaic, his answer was 77 times 70. I think I'll go to work and remove my capacity to experience anger. I think I'll remove that tuning fork from my structure. Now, you might do 77 times 70 worksheets around that to get rid of your anger and your contribution to the dynamic of resonance with your children. When you do that, I'd offer this will be the best possibility of opening the space for healing with your children. Because when they see you making that shift, it will be a new experience for them to be able to go, wow, look at this. I just did my best puke on my mom, and she just stood there in a space of love and connectedness. I didn't know that was possible. Gee, I can remember when I was a kid and my dad used to puke on me and Mom used to puke on me, and I get into my anger and they get into theirs, and it was like the War of the Roses. We just triggered each other, and downward went the spiral. Somebody has to get big enough, and you've got the awareness of the possibility of it, somebody has to get big enough to change the spiral. And so I begin to forgive as to my anger. I apply forgiveness not to my children, not to myself, not to my husband. I apply forgiveness to my anger to remove my anger. Once I've done my 77 times 70 worksheets, and that, of course, doesn't mean a literal number. What it really means is I'm going to do an infinite amount of work around my anger until I and my bloodline are finished with it. Think back to your childhood. How much anger did you watch your father and your mother expressing? Knowing what you know about your grandparents, grandma and grandpa on mom's side, grandma and grandpa on dad's side, how much anger was there? Great-grandma, great-grandpas, all the way back. Are you willing to say, I am going to open a new opening for my family system. I am going to live a life without anger, whatever anybody else does, which means, as I say, you may be forgiving that anger 77 times 70, but you'll create a new opening, and that new opening will change your whole family system.
So what I'm hearing from you is the work that I need to do first is forgiving my own anger and rage at everything that's happened.
You got
me.
it. You've got
okay.
it. And then what will happen as you do that is you'll start to access your genetic anger, and you'll forgive that. And as you clean out the whole family system, you will open a new energetic pattern. It's like opening a new file on your hard drive where life now is lived as a human being, as the active presence of love, no matter what comes along. Things aren't going my way, and instead of going into my frustrated, angry demand, my selfish demand that life serve me, I stop and I breathe and I cancel the goal for life to do everything I want it to do when I want it to do it. And that frustration peels out of me. That anger peels out of me. That rage disappears from me. You are very possibly the first person in, who knows, maybe 1,000 generations of your bloodline that has conceived of having a conversation that it might be possible to live with zero anger inside of you. You might be the first one.
I would so love that. I would love that.
Well, we are so here to support you in that. That's what this work is about.
So the anger work then starts with myself as a little kid who was treated poorly as well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And genetically, you know, if you came from a family system, you know, one of the workshops, you might want to order the DVD, Codependence to Interdependence, or go back and listen to some of the radio shows where we did codependence to interdependence work. And in that workshop, we identify what we call a power person. And a power person is somebody who had more power over our lives than we did at some point in our lives, and they were not functioning as human beings. They were not functioning as love. Usually it's a parent, though not always. If it's a parent, then genetically I got everything they have. So if they have a capacity for rage, I got the genes for rage. So now here I am, a newborn. I come into the world. I'm this awesome presence of love. Everybody goes, ooh, ah, ah, how wonderful, how fabulous, how awesome is this new life. And then this new life doesn't follow the infantile, selfish demands of the parent, i.e. the parent says, I want to sleep tonight at 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to be up taking care of a crying baby. And so the parent goes into frustration. The frustration turns to rage. How many babies are shaken to death by that rageful parent who, no intent to harm the baby, but is under so much stress it doesn't know what to do other than what its power person did. So the child is there with his tuning fork for anger and rage, and a parent who has a tuning fork well developed with anger and rage. And each time throughout the child's life, you know, at 2 days of age, at 2 weeks, at 2 months, at 2 years, at 12 years, at 22 years, this parent regularly unloads their rage. This power person just vomits out all this rage. Well, that's energy. That's a tuning fork. And just like the middle C tuning fork that's held in front of the vibrating tuning fork, the child's field absorbs that energy. So now it's stored within the field of the child. If that person, i.e. you in this example, conceive a child, that child will have in its structure every thought you've ever thought, every feeling you've ever felt, and every bit of rage you took on from your power person or power persons. And then every bit of rage that you took on as you went through relationship and, you know, you brought somebody in with a matching bag of garbage and they raged and you raged and the child was in the womb and the child absorbed the energy. And so each time the right circumstance comes forward that resonates that stored energy, and even though we've said 1,000 times, I am never going to rage at my children again, the next time the stress is up and the chips are down, the energy that's within us takes over, and here we are raging again. Because forgiveness was disappeared on the planet, that dynamic, that energetic dynamic, in this case talking about rage, and it could be any other emotion, carries on and is accumulated from generation to generation to generation to generation. And people are stuck in it. And because forgiveness was disappeared, they have no way out. A circumstance shows up that resonates, it takes over, they puke out the rage on their children, who do it to their children, who do it to their children, who do it to their parents, who do it to their spouses, and blah, 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 blah. For perhaps the first time in 2,000 years, now that we've decoded some of the Aramaic teachings directly from the oldest known copy of the New Testament in Aramaic, what we know is that what Yeshua was teaching 2,000 years ago, he was teaching people how to remove those things that didn't belong. And he instructed them that there would be deep issues where they would have to do 77 times 70 worksheets, that they would have to forgive an infinite number of times till they were finished with their capacity to do that. And one of the things I want to acknowledge about you, because a lot of people, if I had this conversation with them, would be getting angry and say, well, Michael, how dare you tell me I'm angry? And how dare you tell me I defiled my children? How dare you talk about my parents' life? You could be doing that. And I acknowledge you for your willingness to go, okay, well, I don't know how to do that. Can you lead me there? Because the person who lives in an angry world, oftentimes, even though they deny their anger and pretend they're sweet and wonderful and all of that, the truth is they don't want to be led anywhere. They're not willing to let go of that because they think that's what protects them. So I acknowledge you for your willingness to be supported and led into a space where you go, oh, that's how it works. So I've got the tail end of generations of anger that I've passed on to my children, and maybe I'm going to be the one that changes the whole dynamic for the family system. Whoa, what an awesome opportunity. And then one of my favorite lines from A Course in Miracles is the line that says, millions yet unborn will benefit from the work you do. As you open this energy window, you literally open a space on planet Earth for something new to show up. And each person that chooses to do that contributes to the critical mass of changing this insanity of rage, of grief, of pain, of hostility, and of war. Each one that chooses to do that work is a contributor to changing that. So I acknowledge you for your willingness to be supported in doing that, and your intelligence to be able to hear the conversation, because a lot of angry people, they shut down. They don't even hear it. They want to puke on me.
Well, thank you, Michael, for acknowledging me, because I know I need to do the work. I know I need to make the shift. I don't like how I'm feeling. So I guess if I do the anger work for the, all of it, that I will stop obsessing about everything in my life as well.
Yes, the energy focus there will keep you in that obsessive space. Mm-hmm. And as you let go of it, the obsession will tend to disappear. And obsession is nothing more than there's a huge file of energy around this particular issue, and so it's firing all the time, and I'm focused there all the time.
Okay, thanks. Where do I find where do I find the DVD on codependence?
Say it again.
You said there was a DVD online about codependence.
Okay, you can order that from our website if you go to whyagain.com, W-H-Y, again.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Order Products. Click on that, and there's a catalog of our products. One of them is a 2-hour DVD of Why Is This Happening.
But you also said that it's online, that I could watch it online?
No, we don't have it online. You can go to the website and order the DVD from the website. And that's what I meant by online. You can go and order it online from our website. Okay. But it's not there as a watchable DVD on the website. That's something we're working toward, but we don't have it accomplished yet.
Okay, well, thank you, Michael.
Delighted. Glad to be on the team. Thanks for your call.
Thank you so much.
Keep in touch with us. Let us know how it goes. Blessings. Jeanie?
Thank you.
We have 2 more calls. The next one, though, is 678. I think that might be Georgia. You're on the air. 678. Well, they just hung up. So let's go to the next one, which is area code 517. You're on the air.
Hello there.
Hello, 517. That sounds like Rex's voice. How do you be, young man?
It sure is. I do well. I be well. Thank you. Just a quick clarification. The previous caller, wonderful conversation. I appreciate it. One of the things that you had shared with her was that she could actually go through the archives and maybe found, a conversation about codependency. And so I think that's what she might have been asking you.
Okay.
So you may want to clarify that
things.
as well.
Yeah. So there are two different things. One is the DVD on the website that can be ordered, and yes, we do have a whole set of archives, and we actually did several shows on codependence. So you can go back to the archives of this radio show, and you link that. Go to the link on the website, and you'll find that, and that's where you'll find the archives for codependence. Well, actually, we've covered all kinds of subjects and topics. Okay,
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you, Rex.
Yes, and then you're welcome. And the other thing is, in speaking on the process of generational realities, it's exciting to be working with families. And you know, I have a family that I'm working with, as you had an experience of yesterday, I understand. And
right. Yeah.
It's just really exciting to watch and be able to actually see these dynamics playing out with a whole family and watching them change. And as those realities change.
Right, and it's awesome to watch the generations as the interactive healing happens in the generations, how every generation tends to shift and improve. It's pretty powerful.
Yes, it's exciting because they're young. You know, many of the people have young children, and the child, the youngest child in this family has. It was just shared with me today. I had a session, and it was shared with me that he's a little over 2 years old, and he just sat down and he said, he was just sitting on the steps, and he said, "Well, I just feel so sad." and you know, one of the problems, one of the challenges we all have is that we take what we feel, and our parents, because they don't know any better, and many quite often don't know any better, and they don't know how to do anything other than just repress or suppress their own sadness, so they teach us how to do that. Well, it was exciting to hear this child, being the third generation, being willing to express their sadness so openly. And the grandmother, whom happened to be I was working with, actually said very clearly, it was just, she just got so excited because in her life it wasn't okay. And I just wanted to share that because it fits right into what you're describing and what you were sharing with the previous caller. And it's so motivating. You know, I think that when we see that not only do we affect ourselves in our lives, in our relationships that we're actively engaged in, but we affect everyone dramatically. And this is just an example of, you know, just only 2 generations removed, and how much of a change is happening in that young child because they're so permeable and ready to just be the brilliant, beautiful beings that we are. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share that, and thank you for being such a tremendous human being yourself that is so willing and able to support and able to hold the space, conscious, of love, conscious love and presence. And, you know, I mean, it just really is a tremendous asset for all of us to have this program and to have you on the planet. So thank you, Michael. Are you there?
I say, excuse me, I thought I had my mute button on, but I was saying that thank you for saying thank you, and the truth is that all of us are the same nature in terms of human beings. There are no tremendous or no inferior ones. We're all exactly the same, and we can all do this. It's just, do we choose to do the work to undo what never belonged in order to move into that other space? So,
and I
thank you for the
that. And Michael, thank you for clarifying that. And it is, I do it now is what you're saying. Everyone is equal, and some of us choose to do it. So thank you for choosing that. How's that?
You're most welcome. I'm delighted.
All right, I'll let someone else get back on the call here, but thanks again.
Okay, thanks, Rick.
Good job. All right.
By the way, one of the other things that you might want to do in terms of working with children, spouses, whatever, is there's a commitment on the website that we teach in our Healing Through Relationships workshop. And that commitment said to people even who are not present can be awesomely powerful. We have a couple of examples that have happened recently in the work. There's a young lady named Nene who's been on the show several times, and she shared with us last week that she had a client who had been separated from her son for 10 years. He just up and left one day and just broke all contact with her. And Nene supported her in doing some worksheet work around that relationship. And then she suggested that the mother take the commitment and read it to his picture. And 3 days later, there was a knock on the door, and there's her son wanting to reestablish relationship. I worked with a woman in South Florida. Well, this goes back 20 years ago now. I had a private practice in South Florida, and I worked with a woman there who had a daughter that at the age of 11 ran away from home, and she had not heard from her in 8 years. The daughter was 11, so 8 years later, she doesn't know whether her daughter is alive or dead. She does some forgiveness work around that relationship, and a couple of days later, she gets a phone call from Southern California, and there's her daughter on the phone. Hey, Mom, just wanted to check in with you and make sure you're okay and let you know that I'm okay. That's after 8 years. And her daughter's in California, and she's in Florida. Time and space mean nothing. Jeanie had a gentleman at Healing Through Relationships workshop several weeks ago, and he shared with her that, their relationship was on the rocks. They were getting ready for divorce. And Jeanie suggested that he read the commitment to her. And so he took a copy of the commitment with him from the workshop. A couple of weeks later, called Jeanie and said, I can't believe this. This is absolutely unbelievable. I've been reading the commitment to my wife every day, and it's like we're back on our second honeymoon. We're just getting along, and like the whole idea of divorce is gone. And Jeanie said, well, that's fabulous. Does she read it back to you? And the guy said, well, what do you mean? So, well, when you read it to her, does she read it back to you? And the guy said, no, she doesn't know I'm doing this. He's going to the bathroom and reading it. And their relationship was changing and healing. The energetics of the world are powerful things to understand. Most people not understanding play with the energetics of the world through hostility, fear, rage, grief, pain, blame, threat, condemnation, gossip, slander, and they wonder why life comes back with those things to them. Pick up the commitment from the website. They're in about a dozen languages. If you happen to speak a language that we don't have the commitment in, we'd invite you to please translate it for us. Let us know, and we'll put it on the website. You could be helping changing people's lives, those people that are in your culture, speaking your language. Jeanie, anything happening in the chat room? Any callers? Jeanie?
I had to unmute.
Okay.
Yes, we have two callers on hold. So the first one is area code 607.
607, welcome to the show.
Hey, Michael, it's Richard. How you doing?
Hey, when I hear a 607 area code, I know it's probably Richard, and maybe we'll get some other folks up there listening too, so that we can get calls from other people in 607. But how do you be, Richard?
I'm doing fine. I just wanted to comment on an event that occurred here in Ithaca. A friend of mine was assaulted in an armed robbery and managed to escape, and he ended up, obviously still alive to tell the story. So what that triggered in me was this elated feeling of being alive. So today I'm just, saying, just elated with the feeling of how lucky I am to be alive, and I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Yes. Yeah, we are so fortunate to just have this possession called a human life. It is an awesome gift to have. Now, if we carry painful realities, it may seem like this gift of life isn't awesome, but it's not the gift of life that isn't awesome, it's the painful realities. And when you start to use the tools with which to unload those painful realities, you get to uncover what a gift it is. And certainly confronting a situation like that reminds us just what we have in having this awesome opportunity to experience life. So thank you, Richard, for the call, and we hold you in a blessing, and we'll look forward to seeing you next summer at Teachers Training.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
We got another caller, Jeanie? Or chat room happening?
Actually, the other caller hung up, so whoever you were, please give us a call back. You were next in line. The chat room just kind of sitting there listening. I did go back and look up, and the Codependence to Interdependence shows began on April 27th and ran through May the 13th. So if you're going back and looking at the Codependence, that radio show topic lasted for quite a while.
16 days or so. So you got 16 days of codependence work to listen to that we did, an hour a day. So there's about 16 hours there. We went into some pretty good depth with the codependence work. So you might want to jump on the website, go to the links for the archives of the radio show, and there's about 16 days there for you. Awesome. So Dr. Tim, David, do either of you gentlemen have any comments on our conversation so far? Any thoughts from your perspectives?
Well, it's exciting to hear so many people tuning into the tools that can help them change their life. I've had a couple sessions just even since the last show yesterday where people came into the session and they had physical pain. And by the end of the session, simply from identifying the issue that was holding that energy in their system, the pain was gone. So it's, you know, as we've said many times, it's a great pleasure to be around when people make the choice to pick up the tools and get rid of the dis-ease that they're carrying. But that's not just at the emotional level, it's also at the physical level. And so I would encourage people to expand what they're willing to do worksheets on beyond simply anger or fear or sadness or hurt or confusion, and actually be willing to do it on physical issues as well, an ache or a pain in a shoulder or a stomach ache or a headache, low back pain, high back pain. It's wonderful to see. It's a blessing to be involved with people as they choose health, and it's exciting. It's exciting to be on the call and to hear people calling from all over. And I want to echo your kudos to the woman who called earlier and her willingness to listen to your advice that she needs to remove the anger from herself, because as we all know, anybody who's been doing this work for a while knows it's not easy. It's worth it, but it's not easy. So congratulations.
Certainly not a Dr. Feelgood process. To start, one of the reasons why people won't do their work is because they have to deal with what they're carrying around inside of them. And what most people who refuse to do their work don't realize is that what they're carrying around inside them is deteriorating the tissue structure. It is the cause of the pain, the aches, the whole aging process is caused by this garbage that we carry around. And when we become willing to face and undo that garbage, then everything starts to change, and we're here to support that change. So, Jeanie, do you have another question?
Yes, we do. Area code 678. You're on the air.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Welcome, 678. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Dee, and I'm calling from Georgia.
From Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Welcome, Dee. How can we support you?
So I've been listening. I listened to your previous caller, the first caller, and it kind of piqued my interest. I was just perusing BTR and thought I would just listen to a show while I'm on my lunch break. So I heard you talking about relationships with families, with children, and it sounded like to me you were offering ways to break the cycle. What I'd like to know is, how do you know if it's not glaring, if there's not a lot of fighting and bickering going on, is there a way to detect whether or not there is healing that needs to be done? If there's not a lot of outward physical anger, is there a way to detect whether or not, healing does need to be done? Or if it's just...
Yeah, it's really pretty simple. Do I find myself in some form of hostility or fear? Do I go around and, things are fairly, stable and things are okay, but the minute that this person doesn't follow my infantile demands and do exactly what I want them to do when I want them to do it, does my frustration come up? Do I go into anger? Do I use sarcasm? Do I use hostility? And if so, there's where my healing opportunity is. There's an awesome line in the Course in Miracles that says, the slightest irritation covers the most huge rage. And so you find irritation, upset, anger, hostility, sarcasm. If so, then they are all the healing opportunities. That's where it happens.
So let me ask you this. So I have children. Actually, they're teenagers in college now, and I do have issues. I'm a single parent, and I do have issues with getting my oldest to follow the rules. She's at a point where she does think she's grown, and she's not hostile or angry about it, but she just is very defiant in terms of her disobedience. Defiance, I
would offer hostility.
I'm sorry?
Defiance is hostility.
That is hostility. Okay. So how do you know the difference between parenting and where you run into issues with kids, growing up and doing the things that teenagers do? They challenge you. How do you know the difference between that and whether or not there's an issue or even a cyclical genetic issue that needs to be dealt with?
Is there hostility? Is there fear?
Well, there's the typical. You didn't do this. You're supposed to. You're responsible for this and that and the other, and it's not being done. And of course, I get upset. So. I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity there for me or for us to clear some things up?
Yeah. One of my favorite tongue-in-cheek lines in the worksheet is that having children is like having your unconscious mind hanging out in true living color in Dolby sound. Everything that you've never dealt with, because they come from the same genetics, they're going to tend to play out. So if your children are doing things that bring up your fear and hostility, as our first caller's comment was, I don't have any of that until I'm around them and they trigger me. So she's able to keep it well hidden. Our culture says you're supposed to be nicey nice, and everything on the outside is supposed to look clean and cool and supposed to look good.
Mm-hmm.
But what that leads to is the inside becomes filled with all kinds of rage and fear and grief and pain that nobody wants to look at and nobody wants to deal with. So the family system fades and dies of this dissociated hostility and fear. And what we're inviting people to do, instead of fading and dying because we don't want to deal with those things, is to allow allow those things to surface. Allow them to see the light of day. Again, in the ancient physics language, Aramaic, they said nothing will remain hidden. Everything will be made known in the light of day. Whatever's in there is going to come out. Now, if you bring it out consciously and do your work around it, things are going to change. And as they change, then the family system is freed from that insanity. And that's what we want to do, is free each family system from the insanity of every form of hostility or fear.
Now, is that able to be done, for instance, if I wanted that for myself and my family, can that be done even if they don't want to participate?
Yes. Yes. If you do your work, you will tend to open the energy window for them to see, oh, something's changing here. This is different than what I was brought up with. And, gee, Mom, it looks pretty good on you. I would like some.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so that will oftentimes be the result.
Okay. So what would be the first step, or if you have any recommendations to begin work?
We do have recommendations, absolutely. And what we would suggest you do is that you go to the website, whyagain.com. That's whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. There's the starting point. Download the first 5 links. You'll have Chapter 24 from my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? You'll have the initial, the 7-step reality management tool. You'll have 2 radio shows that are specifically shows where we walk people through the worksheet process. And then the 5th link is a list of potential issues for people who think they have nothing to work on. So I'd suggest downloading those 5 links and start to work with it. You can also download the book free from the website and read the whole thing. And the book is basically, it's a conversation format between myself and a character named Richard, who's of course fiction, but a fiction based in truth. He's a sort of a composite of a number of people that I've done work with over the years. And so we walk Richard through. You know, he's this recalcitrant kind of guy that doesn't want to hear anything I'm talking about. He's never done anything wrong. It's all these terrible women in his life. He's on his 3rd divorce, and he knows he just needs to get rid of those women, get out of Dodge, and everything will be okay. And so I get to do a lot of push-pull with Richard. And most people who read the book go, oh, my God, I'm Richard. Or, oh, my God, I live with Richard. And so you can download the book. You can listen. If you want to take it farther, there are 15 different 2-hour DVDs, live workshops. Of course, Why Is This Happening to Me Again is one of them. And we have a whole series of workshops that you can pick up on in the website.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Delighted.
Have a good
Thanks
day.
for your call. Blessing. All righty. Blessing. Take care. Bye. Jeanie.
Yes. We don't have anybody else yet. If you're calling in, our number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. It raises a flag that you want to talk. Otherwise, we just know that you're out there listening. I did get an email earlier from someone who has been attending the workshops, and she said she was going to be on the show today. I'm not going to read the entire email, but she's been doing the worksheets and made some major breakthroughs. And one of the things she said is that she's grateful for the tools to go into deeper levels of her inner life. I offer one thing, Joe, if you're out there listening, is that when you got down to the goal of your worksheet, even though you did see a huge shift and she felt some awesome results from canceling the goal later, the goal is supposed to be positive. And her goal was to not be left behind. And so that's negative. It's still focused on being left behind. And so you would want to reword that to be something like for your goal to be for her to stay with you. So say what you want, not what you don't want. So you might want to redo the worksheet and use that as a goal and see if you get something even different. Even though it does sound like you got a phenomenal breakthrough, even having a negative goal, try it with a positive goal and see if you get something different.
Fabulous. All right. Any other callers, sweetie, or anything else happening on the website?
No, everybody's just listening.
Okay. David, are you still with us? Do you have any thoughts for us?
I am here. Can you hear me, Michael?
Yep.
I can hear you loud and clear, sir. Yes.
Okay. A couple of thoughts that I would make available to the listening audience, especially for people that are just beginning this work, is that a lot of times when people have such fabulous success with this, they feel so wonderful about it. And as you know, as soon as that happens, well, then it opens up on an energetic level the next little piece in order to look at. And sometimes when that goes on, well, then the mind wants to come in there and say, see, this doesn't work. You know, we live in such a time in a culture that everything is referred to as instantaneous and get it right away. And when people do have that, there seems to be the tendency, oh, now I've got it. And they have one experience of it, and there's more that's going to continue to surface. So my recommendation to everyone that is out there is to make a commitment that you're going to do the work for a week or for 10 days or for 40 days or for however long, for a committed period of time that you'll do it, and then to maybe make another commitment after that. Because as wonderful as this experience is, and it is wonderful to be able to do it, there's going to be more on the way. You know, often I've attended lots of workshops and seminars and put seminars on myself, and people become inspired, and they get a sense of, wow, here is an answer for it, and then everything continues to surface, and there's the battle without the support. And it's great that I noticed that several callers are continuing to call in on a regular basis, and I think that's why that they get so many breakthroughs, is that they are staying with it. So you might want to make a comment about that, Michael.
Well, I'm not sure what your thought was for a comment. I certainly agree with you that it's the continuation of the process that keeps us on track with not having to fall back into the old patterns, and the fact that these patterns are 1,000 generations old. When we become aware and keep the process current, keep working through the issues that are up at the moment, everything tends to keep moving smoothly in another direction. And it's kind of a shame to see somebody who makes some great breakthroughs and then goes, oh, well, now I've got everything handled in my life. And, 6 months later, they're right back in the bottom of the pit again because they didn't continue the process. It's kind of like, once you get the car rolling down the hill, you want to keep that puppy rolling. So, fabulous. And Dr. Tim, do you have any thoughts for us?
Well, I would just echo what David was saying. That I think part of what he was talking about is
Can't hear you.
working to clear out some negative
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
in your system. You're likely to reach some level of vitality.
Whoever's talking, I can't hear you. I can just hear a voice in the background.
More of the garbage that you weren't able to look at previously can surface.
Whoever's talking, I can't hear you.
They feel much better, and then they wake up the next day wondering what happened.
Hello, if you're listening.
So much anger.
Whoever's speaking, I can't hear you. Whoever's speaking, we can't hear you.
Tim is the only one that's turned on, so it has to be him or someone in his office.
Okay.
I do some of the healing work.
So maybe he's away from the phone and not realizing it. So maybe we can take him out of the chat, out of the queue for now, and then when he comes back, we'll put him back in.
I just did. Okay.
Cool. Fabulous. So oftentimes the question comes: is there anything happening in the chat room to be aware of, sweetie?
No, you're fine. Keep going.
Okay, cool. So oftentimes people will really balk at this idea of canceling a goal. Why would I do that? And I actually had a long chat with a woman this morning and getting clear. And it's complicated, but so simple. When the mind is filled with all kinds of complexities, the answer to life looks really complex. But when we wake up to who we are, then the process becomes relatively simple. And the simplicity of the process is this. You have masses and masses and masses of information in you. Genetically, you go back all the way to the beginning of your bloodline. It's stored in your structure. You have the most complex biocomputer ever presented on planet Earth. If a situation comes along that resonates, something that's of a traumatic nature, hostility or fear, which by definition I would offer is corrupt data, then your mind, using that data based in hostility or fear, shows you pictures about what's going on inside of you as though they are something happening outside of you. The way that you can know that this is happening is there any form of hostility or fear going for you? Now, most people go, well, I don't know about that. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, let me ask a question. Has anyone ever accused you of saying something you never said, doing something you never did? And, of course, everybody grins and laughs in a workshop and puts your hand up. Certainly that's happened. What state were they in when they accused you of doing something that never happened? And I guarantee they were in some form of hostility or fear. So hostility or fear means that people are living in hallucination. Now, when somebody else has got a hallucination about you, it's real clear that that's an hallucination, that that's not true about you. But when you're the one stuck in the hallucination, it's really clear to you that your hallucinations are true about them. Excuse me. But when there's hostility or fear, your hallucinations are detailing for you a part of your own mind that you are dissociated from. We dissociate by denying any experience we have going on within us. We deny an experience we have going on within us by starting sentences with, you made me. Now, whether we ever speak that sentence or whether we just think it doesn't matter. When I say, you made me angry, you made me sad, you made me afraid, you did that, you, then my hostility or fear-based mind is hallucinating out of its painful content that somebody else caused its content. I would offer nobody can cause content in you. Nobody can cause you to feel anything. It can certainly show you what you're holding on to. The way that you get to the dissociated part of the mind is by collapsing the projection. The way you collapse the projection is by canceling the goal. Please go to www.whyagain.com, open the link that says download worksheets. The whole story's there. We join you in forgiving. We support you in forgiving. As you start to use the tools, please call back into the show as often as you would like to, and we're here to support you. And we are delighted to support you. And we're delighted to support you in creating the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.